All right, check. You see a mic check? Everybody got mic checks?
Yeah. Checking the microphone.
Check.
And stuff.
There you go.
Okay, welcome to the One Life, One Chance podcast. I'm your host, Toby Morse. Today I got my brother from another mother, Ohio's finest, Mr. Derek Green. Thank you for being here again, Derek.
Yeah,
I should start saying Ohio in your intro, right? Because you have so much Ohio pride.
That's right.
Clevo, most of all.
216. Yo, represent.
Get it correct.
Get it correct.
Not 212.
Yeah, I mean, part of your life in New York, you get 212, you got that Manhattan.
You need to get those tatted on you so you don't fuck up anymore.
New York's hard, but Cleveland's also hard.
Yes,
I agree. You got to rep. You got to rep Cleveland.
Hell yeah.
That is the voice of Mr. Andrew Kline. Andrew, thank you for being here. Appreciate you, man. Andrew Strife in the house.
Thanks for having me.
It's crazy we know people like their last name is from their band.
Yeah.
And then you never really call them their last name, but people usually call you Andrew Strife or not?
I mean, people that aren't like my homies, I guess. So are we homies? I don't know.
I want to say you're the best smelling person in the hardcore scene.
Thank you.
You always smells good,
That's
looks
a big
good.
compliment.
Yeah. Do you want to give away your secret? What you wear? Is it something special?
Is it something special? It's funny.
Is it Brute? The
No.
Calvin Klein.
It's Polo Sport. No. Dracar Noir. No.
He always smells good.
Yeah, I usually wear a cologne from Comme des Garçons, and I also have a very distinct hair product called Tancho from Japan.
Oh,
Kind of like this sandalwood.
I think it's your hair
smell.
then. I think
Yeah,
it's your
it's
hair
a combo,
smell.
and it's like I've used like the same products for a long time, so
It works really well, man. You never smell bad, this guy.
and I try to stay clean. So
Yeah, you're clean. You're a clean cat.
let's get on it.
So
Nicest
welcome.
smelly man in hardcore. Here we go.
So where were you born? You born out here?
Nope.
Yeah, where were you born?
New York City, baby.
Word.
Holy crap, I couldn't find it online.
Manhattan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Manhattan.
Holy shit, you're New York hardcore.
Yeah, the World Be Free. The original lineup was technically a New York hardcore band with Scott, not from New York City, but Buffalo.
Buffalo, yeah.
Joe Garlup, Buffalo. Arthur, New York City.
New York.
Sammy,
Yeah,
New York
New York.
City, and me, born in New York City.
All right, so how long were you there for after you were born?
Oh, like barely months. Months. My mom and dad were both born there.
That's sick.
Where were
I
they
didn't know
born
that.
in New York?
Brooklyn and the Bronx.
Yeah, the Bronx.
My grandparents
Legit.
on my mom's side were in Parkchester.
Portchester, yeah.
And actually, my grandpa, he was called the Birdman of Parkchester. He was this weird fellow that loved origami. Mm-hmm. And so, he's this jolly, chubby New York Jewish man that somehow picked up origami. And so he would make these cranes and, that move and frogs. And that was his thing. And like he was known around the neighborhood. And there was actually like an article in the newspaper. Birdman of Parkchester. So,
holy shit!
And any Parkchester natives listening, and you remember getting a origami from this jolly old man? That was my grandpa.
That is amazing.
I think he
man.
worked at Macy's. He was a postman.
Okay.
And worked at Macy's.
Yeah, I think there were shows in Portchester, man, for sure.
I have no idea.
I think Willow Street was up there. I'm not sure with that. You played Portchester, New York?
I have not.
It's crazy when you think of New York. It's such a big place, but no, everything's just New York City. Or Buffalo or Syracuse or Albany.
East New York.
There were shows everywhere, for sure. No. So why California?
So my parents moved here, I think, for work. My dad was a computer engineer.
Nice.
And so I think at one point they had driven cross country on a motorcycle with my dad, my mom, and their dog.
Wow.
Which was maybe an Irish Greyhound.
Wow.
So they drove cross country on a motorcycle. They lived an interesting life. They're kind of super well educated. My dad was like borderline genius.
Wow.
They started college when he was 16. And I think he went to Columbia. My mom went to Cornell.
Damn, bro.
And then, but they were kind of like hippies, right?
Okay.
So they were like totally doing their own thing. Hence the traveling cross country on a motorcycle, right? And then he was a computer engineer. He worked for a company and he helped develop like the first laser printer.
Wow.
And as kids, he was always all the military companies were trying to recruit him because he was such a smart engineer, and that went against everything he stood for.
Yep.
So he could have been super rich working on a military contract, and instead, he ended up working, starting his own company, he worked at a place called Data Products that was in Woodland Hills, and then he started a company called Golem Systems, which, to be honest, I don't really know what they were doing.
Yeah.
Some sort of
Golem system?
Yeah,
That's what I was
Golem
thinking.
system. Yeah.
Golem.
Yeah.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have a brother and a sister. My brother, both very smart. My brother has a PhD. He's a marine biologist.
Wow.
Bro.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
He currently lives in Panama and works for the Smithsonian.
Jesus, dude.
Yeah. And then my sister, she's an administrator she lives in San Francisco. She's an administrator for the school system, and she has a master's in teaching, but also potentially going to get her PhD as well.
Wow, man.
And I'm really encouraging her to get her PhD just so we could rub it in my brother's face. He likes to be like, oh, Dr. Kline. And so my sister will be the real Dr. Kline.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn, so wow. It's so crazy. You meet people from the hardcore scene, you don't really know their history, and so many different backgrounds on this podcast. You find out, like, holy, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Are you close with your siblings?
Yes, yeah, very close. I talk to my sister weekly. My brother, I'm very close with my brother, but he doesn't like to communicate as much as the other people. I don't know what his deal is, so we always give him a hard time. That he doesn't stay in touch as much.
Is he older?
Yeah, I'm the youngest.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
He's about 2 years older, and neither of them like grew up in hardcore.
Yeah.
But like, for instance, my brother, it's gone to hardcore shows, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And he's lived all over the world. So like when he was living in Australia, he went and saw like Gorilla Biscuits in Australia.
That's cool.
And he saw Terror and hung out with
Is
Terror.
that through your influence?
Yeah.
It's cool. Younger brother getting him into that's awesome.
Yeah. And then my sister was like, she's about 7 years older. So she was like super into like new wave music and dance music. She had like the big puffy bangs like back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And she was super into like Prince, and she was doing her own thing, but also we were very like musical family, right? Everybody was into music. My dad had thousands of records. He had a huge record collection. He didn't play instruments, but he was like, we could listen to, we used to drive a lot, so we'd be driving to Venice Beach on a Sunday to go hang out, and my dad would be listening to jazz on the radio, and he could tell you who was playing. He's like,
awesome.
oh, that's Max Roach on the drums, and this is
Damn.
whoever on the bass, and this is on the trumpet. Like, so you have to have like a very special ear, I think,
Totally.
to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Especially like the instruments. It's not like, oh, this is
Right.
this singer, right? It's like these are the players, and he was like super into jazz and rock, and so we were exposed to music like at a very early age.
Yeah. So were they strict, like as far as school wise? Did you do good in school? Were they strict on grades and stuff like that, or you smart?
I did good in school.
Yeah.
I was in honors and AP classes, and
Nice.
my brother was the valedictorian at our school. You know what I mean? So
Damn.
my parents weren't strict, but also like it kind of came easy to us.
Everybody set the bar in the house though, like your brother and sister, right? Like,
well, I think my sister did okay. Again, she's 7 years older. So
okay.
I don't know. I would assume she did okay in school, but she was like, if any of us was the wild one, like that was my sister, right?
Yeah.
But she did, she did graduate. She moved and went to college, so she must have done decent in school. But like, yeah, school was one of those things I was like, it was fairly easy. I remember I had a term paper due in 10th grade, and I was filling in for that band Resurrection.
Oh yeah.
I was filling in on bass, and we the night before we played KXLU radio. So maybe it was like a Sunday night, and I'm up late. Like we had just done a little West Coast tour. I just barely learned their songs on bass, and then we're playing on the radio. And I remember like kind of like cramming in the cliff notes of like King Lear for my term paper that was going to be the next day, and I wrote some weird term paper that kind of like compared Star Wars to King Lear's. Some bullshit that pulled off the top of my head and somehow worked.
Wow.
So
damn. So you were playing in bands early, young. Like you started young. Like you were in school,
yeah. I mean, Strife started. I was 14 years old.
Wow, man.
What was your introduction into
the
whole
exposure
hardcore
to
scene?
it? Yeah.
So we had. You do these podcasts, you end up saying a lot of things multiple times. So
I hear you.
Forgive me if you heard this one before, right?
You heard it first only here on One podcast.
But I'll give you an exclusive somewhere. Somewhere down the line, you'll get the One Life exclusive. But so we had this older friend, close friend of my family. Like, so it was crazy. So at one point, I said my parents were hippies. They lived in Ibiza, Spain. As an island. It wasn't like the party island, you know it now. But it was this crazy island. There was no electricity. And they had their close friends living there with them. So they've been friends with them. This was probably, I don't know, 60s or something.
Right.
Sick.
And so they had been close friends with this artist couple. And they lived in Spain. Then they lived in New York. And then this family moved to Santa Barbara. So super close to... my family, our entire life growing up. They had a son that was a few years older than my brother, so maybe like 5 years older than me. Santa Barbara is like a college town, so they had college radio, and he was into punk a little bit and music, but he used to tape the college radio up there from UC Santa Barbara, and I remember going over to his house as a little kid, like, I don't even know, could have been 8 years old. Like,
wow.
And he had a tape of the song "Goddamn Motherfucking Son of a Bitch" by Bad Posture. That was on one of the Quiet on the Western Front comps.
Okay.
And that was like the first punk song I heard, and I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But it was like, as an 8 or 9 year old kid, it's hilarious. Like,
yeah.
Goddamn motherfucking son of a bitch. Like, that's basically the entire lyrics of the song. I can't move. I can't twitch. Goddamn motherfucking son of a bitch. So, like, we thought it was hilarious. That was kind of like my first introduction. There was probably a few other Suicidal, I Saw Your Mommy Again.
Yeah.
Hilarious. You know what I mean? Like, it was almost like Weird Al, like, in a way. Like, I can't believe there's a song that says this. I don't know what it is. Like, you don't really know what punk is. But you hear these songs and they resonate because there's some sort of humor, whether it's intended or not.
You're curious, like, what is this?
Yeah. And then later, it was kind of the progression was like 3rd grade, I was into breakdancing, right? Probably everyone was. So I showed up to school in the parachute pants I think I got from my friend in Santa Barbara, and some weird shirt with a zipper, and I'm into breaking, so like everyone's breakdancing. I was never very good. Sid from Strife, however, excellent breakdancer.
Wow. I'm sure he was.
Excellent breakdancer.
Wow.
I can tell you
we were from the suburbs. We grew up in Thousand Oaks. Sid was from Riverside, so a little more
on the
edge. Hood. Yeah, a little more of the hood. So he was getting topped. Yeah, he was getting topped by the real breakdancers. We were watching, whatever.
Soul Train.
What year were you born?
I was born in 75.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in 75. So breakdancing. Then I got really into like Run DMC and the Beastie Boys.
Sick.
So I was like 4th, 5th grade.
Damn, super. What about skateboarding too? Is that in the mix too?
Yeah, and then skateboarding, right? So like, once I get into skateboarding, you pick up a Thrasher magazine, then it's just like punk rock's in front of you.
Right. Skate rock,
hardcore, all of it. So like 6th grade, I buy my first tapes on my own, and it was Depeche Mode, A Broken Frame, and Corrosion of Conformity, Technocracy.
Sick.
So like,
wow, okay,
that was like my first. These were my tapes. There's another kid in my school who's into punk music, and basically at that point on, it's just like, okay, anything you see in Thrasher or anything with a logo you recognize from a skateboard, like you're trying to find it. There was no cool underground record stores.
No.
We're in a very small suburb, so it was like you go to Music Plus, you go to Warehouse, you look at the shelves. At that time, tapes were the format. CDs were just like coming out, so it was just like, Minor Threat. I know this. I'm getting Minor Threat, 7 Seconds, Black Flag, Circle Jerk, Suicidal. Like kind of starter pack, right?
Yeah.
But great.
Yeah.
And there was no listening station.
No.
There was no computer to be like, oh, I'm going to check this out. So it's like, oh, I'm saving up and, you might get burned. I got burnt. So infamous burn for me was I was like, oh, Social Distortion. This is the punk band. I'm going to spend my $6.99 on this brand new Social Distortion. But it was Prison Bound.
Oh, the different one.
Oh,
yeah.
It was like country, America. I don't know what it was.
Oh, I'm prison bound. Yeah.
I didn't get that far. That thing went out.
Like it.
That thing went. Well, now. But as a imagine being like 14-year-old or 13-year-old, and you wanted some punk. I bought the wrong tape.
Aggressive shit. Yeah.
I bought the wrong tape. So I was upset. I was upset.
You can't really skate to Prison Bound either in that.
No,
that's true.
No.
It's a great record when you put them all together. I know what he's saying.
But DRI crossover, all
Dead
all
Kennedys.
of course, Dead Kennedys, all the kind of starter pack. But it was the stuff that was like had the good distribution, right?
Yeah.
Like so, it was just like it wasn't on major labels, but like you could go into a mainstream store and pick it up, and once you kind of find those few bands and you're kind of like hooked. You're like, oh, I'm getting into this. So that was kind of like my first experience. 7th grade, we kind of had this little skate crew. We'd skate to school every day. And
what was it called?
We didn't really have a name for the crew. It was just like a group of friends. But eventually we kind of like started getting into like spray painting and graffiti because that's what you do when you're a kid, right?
Totally.
So like, we'd skate to school, and then we'd have a little, we'd spray paint or whatever.
Spray paint the walls.
And my first spray paint name was my graffiti name was named after, it was Farce, and that was named after a song off that Corrosion tape, which is Milking the Sick Farce.
Wow.
So I was a big COC
Damn,
fan.
COC inspired some graffiti stuff. That's crazy.
There you go. We were into Excel.
Excel.
That was huge for us.
Beowulf, was that a band back?
Yeah, Beowulf. Yeah. We were into all that. Descendants. We loved Descendants. So my buddy in our skate crew, he had an older brother. So he kind of had some tape collection from him.
Yeah.
Which was kind of like the Descendants. We were really into the Freeze.
Ooh.
When I was in 6th grade, my parents divorced, and so I had 2 houses.
Oh man!
One house, the next door neighbor was this older punker dude named Jason Palermo, and he was like, I would say he was probably like 8 years older than me, but sick record collection. Okay. So he had every punk record, every hardcore record, two-tone ska, reggae, jazz, whatever, he had it. So I'd go to his house and I'm like, okay, I'm going to borrow like 5 records at a time. And he's like, cool, here's original press of like AF Victim in Pain, FUs, here's the Negative Approach album, like, and I'd borrow like 5 records at a time, bring them home to my mom's house, double them on cassette. And I used to do this funny thing. I was like, again, I was 14, so I'd do this funny thing. I'd pretend like I was a radio announcer.
Did the same thing.
Did you?
Yes, totally.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, and I had this little girl voice. I still have the tapes at home.
Wow,
and I'd be
that's
like,
amazing.
This is Agnostic Front with Victim in Pain. Up next is the FUs with My America, right? And it was just like I would announce this. I don't know why, but I guess you could just record on the thing. It had the little.
Yeah.
So I do that.
Wow.
I still have them,
Okay.
and I would draw the covers, right? So I do like I have like my hand drawn version of like Crumbsucker, Life of Dreams, and the Bad Religion. How can hell be any worse? And sometimes I'd take liberties with the artwork, so it'd be like, graveyard with a hand popping out of it or whatever. But I still have some of this stuff. And
that's amazing.
I would, one time we were skating, I found this box of tapes, and I guess they were like self-help tapes.
Yeah.
And it was called The Porch Light's On, But Nobody's Home. And I found like 100 of these. So like everything I dubbed was over a Porch Lights On, But Nobody's Home cassette.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I have a bunch of tapes. But so anyway, he had an amazing record collection. He would let me borrow them all the time. And everything, like I said, AF, Youth of the Day. He was like friends, like one of his buddies, like was friends with Operation Ivy or whatever.
Wow.
So we got into Operation Ivy like almost in real time, which was cool.
Dang.
Fugazi, and he played drums. So he was in this really cool kind of like garage punk band called Scratch Bongo Wax.
Okay.
Weird name. You can actually find them online. It's cool. Like I listened to it recently. I'm like, actually, it's a really good band.
Okay.
And we were into skateboarding, we were into BMXing, and he was older. He ended up driving me. He had a really cool like yellow 70s Ford Nova, and he ended up taking me to a couple shows, which was cool. Like I think I was getting into hardcore as he was kind of like getting out of it.
Okay.
So there wasn't like that much he was into, but I remember he took me to the Anti Club to go see Neurosis. It was Neurosis, NoFX, and Jughead's Revenge, and it was Neurosis right when Word is Law came out.
Okay.
And it could have been like the last time they probably played Pain of Mind live. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like it was they changed very quickly out of that. And I remember like they played Pain of Mind last, and everyone was going crazy because that was such a great record.
Yeah.
And I think they were kind of like, oh, we're not into this style anymore, right? They were like progressing quick.
What's that? Souls at Zero?
That was after.
After.
Yeah. So Pain of Mind's the first album, which is kind of like almost like crusty.
I have to go back and listen.
It's awesome.
Because I love Souls at Zero.
It's nothing like this.
Wow.
And then Word is Law is almost like Technocracy, COC style. Like they're getting more technical, but it's kind of like a COC vibe.
Right.
And then they just get like their own thing. They become their own band. But
what year was that?
I would guess that was probably like 1990.
Okay.
So again, 14 years old. So my first show, so I started going to shows. I started high school. I guess the year was probably like 89 and 90. And so there was a kid that was a little bit older than me, named Jeff Moore, who was he was a grade older, and he was into punk and hardcore. He was straight edge, actually. So I showed up to school, and he's like, "Oh, you're into hardcore? Like, check this out." And again, just borrowing CDs. I think like that Youth of the Day Bold, it was a split CD when it first came out. Like, I think I got that from him and dubbed both of those.
Did you know what straight edge was at that point or no?
Not exactly. Obviously, like I had Minor Threat, and I had some stuff. 7 Seconds, whatever. I had some stuff, but not really. Ninth grade was when I really discovered what straight edge was, and I was at that time I was straight edge without knowing what it was.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, check out Youth of the Day, check out Bold. He was friends with this band called Social Justice, who they became Downset.
Oh,
but they sounded like Instead meets like Ill Repute. It was really cool.
Sick.
They were a straight edge band at the time. They were playing shows at the country club with like Uniform Choice and Slapshot. So they were like an active semi-local band. So he was friends with them. And, at that point, it was like, oh, there's a show. He had already gone to shows. He's a year older than me. So he's like, oh, there's a show at the country club. And so my first show was the Circle Jerks, 1990. And it was Circle Jerks, NoFX on S&M Airlines, and Neurosis.
It's a great one, man.
Yeah.
It's a great
amazing.
first one. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. And, in that year, I saw Circle Jerks twice, which was awesome. That was like,
Was that Wonderful Era? Tell me what album that was in 90.
I think it was 4.
Sure. 4. It was 4.
Yeah,
I
think it was 4.
That's right.
And I believe they had a live record that came out after that they recorded songs at one of those country club shows.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was cool.
Was your mom or your parents tripping on the music you listened to, or?
I don't think they cared. They were like into music, especially my dad. So like, I don't think he paid. I don't think he cared.
Okay.
I think there's a few instances. Like, okay, I'll tell you. Like I said, we used to drive in his car a lot, and I remember like he wouldn't be like, "Oh, why don't you play this Circle Jerks and we're going to listen to this on a Sunday afternoon," right? So like I had a little trick, and I would like record only the Bad Brains reggae songs on a tape, And then I'd be like, oh, cool, we're going to listen to this. And he was cool with that, you know?
Wow.
So,
man.
I have a tape that's just the Bad Brains reggae songs. And that was
Your dad liked it.
I'd cheat the system, right?
Yeah.
I'd cheat the system.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so there were little things like that. But yeah, once I went to my first show, I was at the country club, you know, sold out Circle Jerk show. It was like, I was hooked. And there was a few shows. I remember Bad Brains was here with Leeway and Sick of It All
I remember
on the
that
Quickness
tour.
tour.
Yeah, man.
And that could have been my first show, but I couldn't convince my sister to drive us.
Okay.
You know, like that's the thing when you're 14.
Yeah.
Most of your
Yeah.
friends don't drive either. So it's like my friend Jeff, he'd convince his brother to drive us or his sister to drive us, or we had this other friend, Todd. It's funny. So we had this friend named Todd Tyler, who's super into punk and hardcore now. And at that time, he wasn't into like straight edge hardcore. It was so weird. We skated with him, but like I know we convinced him to like drive us to see Judge at the country club and drive us to see Gorilla Biscuits. And he went to these shows not as a fan of those bands, but just like a kid that wanted to mosh.
Right.
And
That's
now he's
cool.
like, oh, dude, I'm so glad you like forced me to go take you guys to these shows, right?
It's awesome.
Because now, like, you know, he's into all those bands and he ended up playing in bands.
Yeah.
But we would just like anybody that we could find that was like kind of into it. I know, like, really weird. Like Jeff worked at this video store that did like they rented videos and video games. And somebody that worked there, it was like this weird older dude that he was into punk. He had some punk tattoos, but he was like a male porn star. Like I don't even remember his name. That dude took us to some shows. Like
Wow.
like just some random some you know, again, like Jeff knew this dude. Okay, we're going. You know, he'd take us to shows. It was cool. I probably, if I had kids now, I probably wouldn't let them do that. I might.
Absolutely not.
It's just crazy how like I was outside that young going to shows, you were too, and how somehow maybe we had our relationships with our parents. They trust us to go to these
that's
crazy,
true.
violent-looking slam dancing shows with a bunch of crazy punk rockers.
And think about this: there was no cell phone. You weren't checking in with your
No.
parents. Like they couldn't
No.
like track your location or check in on you. It's just like, cool, I'm going to. And I'm sure a lot of that was like, hey, I'm sleeping over at this guy's house, and that kind of move.
But still, just almost every person I've spoken to about growing up in this world, their parents were so cool about them going, especially if they weren't partying. They knew they were going to go there and skate or slam dance, or they weren't drinking and shit. Their parents, okay, go have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
don't know,
do
it's interesting.
remember my dad got really, really upset at me one time. My dad was totally cool with, hold on.
Yeah.
My dad was totally cool with mostly anything I did, but one time I went, my friend Stacy, she's a couple years, Stacy
Yep.
Gucci, she's a few years older.
Stage Dive Stacy, what up?
Stage Dive Stacy, she's great.
Best.
Grew up with her, and she was part of our crew. She was from a town over. She was from Moore Park. We're from Thousand Oaks. And again, she's 3 or so years older than me, 4. But she had a car, so awesome, even better. So she drove us to see Chain of Strength way out in Riverside at Fairmount Park. It was Chain of Strength. It was a crazy lineup. Ill Repute,
Damn.
White Caps, Voodoo Glow Skulls. It was like a weird mixed bill. And so we go to the show, and it's about 2-3 hour drive from where we were. There again, no cell phones.
None of that shit.
And so we went to the show. It was this all day thing. We hung out with Chain of Strength after. That's actually when we met those guys, became friends with them. I interviewed Chain of Strength for my first fanzine that night.
Wow.
Yeah, I did this. My very first fanzine, it was called Word to Your Mother. I only did one issue, and it was...
Shout to MC Hammer.
No.
Word to your mother.
Word to Your Mother. V-Ice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. Yeah,
V-Ice.
You're right.
And so it was my
That's
first...
old school shit.
Yeah, my first zine was Chain of Strength, Born Against, and Resurrection. So
What a sick mix.
Yeah. And that was the thing. We were into everything.
And I could tell by everything you're naming, all the bands he's naming. It's just like, it's not just straight edge or skate. It's everything.
No,
and Duran to COC.
Yeah, that was the whole. That was the whole vibe. And so I interviewed them for my first zine. I interviewed Alex from Chain, who was a band called Statue, who ended up being. That interview came out in a different zine I did. But so anyway, so we ended up hanging out. I think I got home at like 4 in the morning. I was probably, I don't know, 14, 15.
Wow.
Maybe 5 in the morning. I don't know. My dad was pissed. And he's like, you didn't check in with me. I'm like, yeah, it would have cost me, $2 to call you from the payphone. You know what I mean? It's like, what do you want me to do? And call you and say I'm going to be late. It's like, I don't have $2. And if I did, I was going to buy my Taco Bell
Exactly.
14. What do you expect
on the
from
way
me?
home. And he was like, I was worried. I called the police. I thought you got in a car accident. I was like, okay, I get it. I'm sorry. I won't do that again. But that was really the only time he ever got mad.
Yeah, you mentioned playing bass in a band earlier. When did you start playing music, like guitar and stuff too? And what inspired that?
Okay, so as I mentioned, like kind of came from a musical family.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So like I played piano as like a young kid.
Sick.
I don't even know how old I was. I remember taking piano lessons and being able to read music.
That's awesome.
We all loved the Beatles. I had a Beatles songbook and I could read
Yes.
music, play these Beatles songs. So that's kind of like my first instrument. Then
cool.
I played the trumpet. And again, read music, was in marching band. I quickly realized trumpet wasn't cool. Ska hadn't made the big resurgence yet. I could have been in a huge ska band if I kept it up. You know what I mean? You might see me on tour with Less Than Jake or
A real
something.
big fish or
You'd
something.
be calling me Andrew Less Than Jake or Less Than Andrew or something. Yeah. But I was like, man, this ain't cool. So then I was like,
it's cool.
I'm going to be in the drum line. So then I played the timpanis, George of the Jungle, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
So that was,
Wow.
so I did that. And then I'm like, nah, this ain't cool either. So I had the little skate crew and we had this imaginary band. And they're like, okay, my friend Mike's like, I'm the singer. My other friend Mike was the guitar player. I don't know who was playing drums. They're like, Andrew, you're playing bass. And I'm like, nope, I got a guitar. So I got this my first guitar, I don't even know what brand, the cheapest one you can get on the wall at the local music store.
Yeah.
It had, it was kind of shaped like a regular kind of Fender shape, but it was black with green lightning bolts all over
Okay.
it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, with
Sick.
a whammy bar. And so that was like my first guitar. We never started this band, but as I was borrowing these records from my neighbor, I was like, oh, I'm going to figure out how to play these songs. So like I sat down one day and figured out how to play all of like Bad Religion, How Can Hell It Be Any Worse?
Nice.
Figured that whole thing out. Figured out instead Bonds of Friendship. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then quickly I met growing up at my mom's, there was a little area we'd all go skate. One of my good friends from my crew, he had a new next door neighbor that just moved from Riverside. That was Sid, who became the drummer from Strife.
Wow.
So Sid, about 3 years older, he already played drums in a punk band. He was in this band called SDI, which is Society Defeated by Ignorance. They were kind of like a DRI kind of thrash band, but they played Spanky's Cafe with Agnostic Front, for instance.
Nice.
They played Fairmount Park with Youth of Today. So they were already playing shows.
Cool.
And he, at that time, he was already a good drummer. So I was skating with my buddy Jesse, he used to be part of the Strife crew, real tall guy. The Brazilians call him Paulitão.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He passed away. He passed away.
Pelican. Really?
Yeah, years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, you probably knew. But anyway, Paulitão, our buddy Jesse. And so he was like a good friend of ours. Sid was his next door neighbor. That's how I met Sid. Sid came out, oh, you're into skating? I'm into it too. You're into punk? I am too. Here, check this out. He hands me a VHS tape. It's The Minor Threat, live at Buff Hall. He's like, check this out. And, from then, like, he was older and we started going to shows together instantly. He didn't drive either, so I don't know who was driving us at that time. Somebody was driving us. But we met Rick in line. We were in line to see MDC and Bad Religion.
Wow.
And
great show.
And I don't know. I remember I had these big ass like army combat boots. They weren't like Doc Martens. They're like these $20 combat boots. And Sid had like the really cool like green Doc Martens. I couldn't afford that. And I don't remember what shirts we were wearing, but we see this kid in line. He's like, "Oh, where are you guys from? Whatever." And we probably had X's on our hands, and Rick had X's. You're straight edge? You're like, yeah. He's like, me too. And we're like, cool. Where are you from? He's like, I'm from Moore Park. Rick was older than us. Rick had a car, so it was like, boom, it's on. You're our homie. We used to hang out and skate at this ice cream store called Sweethearts. So we'd be at Sweethearts every day doing slappies on the curb, and we had a whole crew of kids. And Rick would come from Moore Park. He had a VW Carmen Ghia.
Wow.
And if you're familiar with that car, it's a very small car. It was bigger than a Bug, but barely. So he would show up, and he's like, all right, we're going to Spanky's tonight. We're going to see Chain of Strength. Who's coming in the car? And we're like, everyone would like dive in, like whoever could fit.
Like a clown car.
Yeah, but we, he couldn't fit that many people. So it was like there were shows I missed. There were shows our buddies missed. Eventually, he graduated from the Carmen Ghia to a squareback. So the squareback, he could fit more people. Stacy started coming. Stacy was from Moore Park. Rick introduced us. She started coming around. She had a car. So then it was like, oh, cool. There's not just one car. There's two cars.
Yeah.
Now there's three cars. And we would roll to every show, like
that's awesome.
3 cars packed with kids, and from Thousand Oaks to, at that time, like Riverside, because that was the place.
Was the barn in Riverside too? That venue?
It was. Yeah.
Okay, that's
a
great spot.
That was at the college.
Shout out to Bill Fold. He's put shows on out there.
Yeah, we played many. 96 Posse, 98 Posse, 98 Posse was his production.
Yeah.
And we did actually the Strife in This Defiance record release show was at the barn. Bill Fold put it on.
Wow.
It was Strife, Hate Breed, may have been their first West Coast show. Despair, Scott Vogel.
Wow.
And I believe our buddies in Insurgents opened it. I believe they opened that one.
Wow.
Insurgents became now the singers in a band called AWOL Nation, which you may know.
Okay,
huge pop band.
Wow, man.
Yeah, so like, shout out Bill Fold.
Yeah, man.
We played a lot of his shows. But yeah, so, we kind of all met, and everyone was going to shows. Sid was already in a band. Rick was in a band called Monster Club, which was like, they started out being like Misfits influence, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he was into straight edge. Sid was straight edge. I was straight edge. So like, let's start a straight edge band, right?
Yeah.
So Rick leaves his band. Monster Club becomes a band called Still Life, which was a really influential early 90s emo band. They were on Ebullition Records with like Downcast and really, really great band. And very influential in that scene. And we started a band called Stand As One, which later becomes Strife.
Wow.
So,
Stand As One. So it was all straight edge band from the beginning, right?
Yes.
Stand As One.
Okay, so it first starts, I'm not in the band.
Oh, okay.
It first starts, it's Sid and Rick's buddy, Scotty Collin, who's this little tiny straight edge kid. He's awesome. Mm-hmm. And then Sid has his buddy that works at Toys R Us with him named Jim. And Jim's this metal guy, but he rips that guitar. Okay. He's just ripping metal guy, but he's like kind of a burnout. He's not showing up to practice. He could rip a guitar, but if you're not showing up to practice, you're not making the cut. So they jammed a few times with him. They write one song. Well, I think Rick actually brought the song in, but they did a song with him, and then he didn't make the cut. So like I show up at Sid's house. I think they were supposed to jam, and they're like, Jim's not here. I'm like, fuck it, I'll play guitar. I had that lightning bolt friggin' special off the wall. Like I don't know what guitar I had then. But I was like, fuck it, let's jam. So we set up in Sid's bedroom, and we start jamming these songs, and I'm jumping off his bed, and we're just going crazy, and we ended up writing a few songs that became Strife songs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
And so like from that point on, yes.
They were like, you're in.
Yeah.
Have you written songs before?
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, not really. It was interesting. Sid was very musical, even though he's a drummer. He couldn't play guitar, but he would like tell you what he wanted. So he's like, do something like this, do something like that, and we just kind of worked that way.
And what were the influences at that point for Strife?
When we first started, we were super into the New York hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like Sick of It All was probably our favorite band. Killing Time.
I would say Strife reminds me of really like a West Coast Judge vibe, too.
Judge, of course. But then, like, and then, you know, there were still a few of the, you know, like Chain of Strength was still a band. That was a band we'd see all the time.
Yeah.
And we love Chain of Strength. And we're like, we want to go off like Chain of Strength, and we want to sound like Judge and Sick of It All. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we want. And Cro-Mags. Like, Sid and I, all of us, we all loved the Cro-Mags.
Yeah.
Sid saw them on the Best Wishes tour at the Country Club. I think it was Cro-Mags Instead Destruction tour, right? So we're like, that's our vibe, but we want the energy of a band like Chain of Strength. Like, you know, so that was kind of it. Like, this heavier music for a West Coast band.
Yeah.
But like that energy. And it was at a time like all of our favorite bands from the mid to late 80s were breaking up. Like, we got to see Gorilla Biscuits, we got to see Judge, we got to see Chain of Strength, but probably the last time they were ever on the West Coast. And then the only bands that kind of were making it through from that era were band like Sick of It All, right?
Yeah.
So that was like probably why Sick of It All was our favorite band. It was like, oh, we could see them. They're going to be on tour, right? So I think the first time we saw Sick of It All, for me, I had tickets for East Meets West, which was Sick of It All. I'm so bummed I missed it.
I was out there with my
Sick of It All, Killing Time, Vision.
What year was that? 90 or
90?
Yep.
Yeah, 90.
Carry On? No, it was
Carrie Nation.
Carrie Nation.
Carrie Nation and this band called Point Blank. And I had tickets, but we were on vacation in friggin' Lake Tahoe. Damn. And I was like, we got to come back to this because there was that show. And then a few weekends later, or maybe the next weekend, was 7 Seconds at the Country Club as well. So
wow.
I was like, oh, we got to go. I got to see this. I missed this. So I never, up until recently, got to see Killing Time.
Yeah.
I saw Vision in the 90s. But, you know, I mean, like, that would have been the time, you know, and I missed them on the Leeway Bad Brains. So I didn't get to see them until they toured with Biohazard and Fear Factory, which was insane.
Sick one too. Yeah.
And we went to every show. We went to Santa Barbara and we went to Riverside. And we went to every show that we could. And we loved Sick of It All, but we were also really blown away by Biohazard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, seeing them live at that time, they were just like on point, on another level. And we're like, ooh.
Was it Urban Discipline?
Yeah. And it was like, man, this is sick. So if you actually listen to our first album, To One Truth, you could definitely hear the Biohazard influence, right? You could probably hear the Sick of It All and the Judge, but, you know, Biohazard was definitely influenced, which is why we had like Biohazard and Sick of It All was why we had those big gang vocals for sure.
Yeah. Was there EP before that though?
Yeah, we had 2 7-inches before that.
My Fire Burns On, that one?
Yeah. And then we, the LP came out in maybe the end of 94.
Yeah, 94. Yeah. And what Will Remain was like, that's a big one, man. That's a big song.
Yeah. So, so we start the band, right? And we, like I said, we have this whole crew from the suburbs. And so we'd play a show and it'd be like, oh, you're playing this random show on a Tuesday night at Spanky's Cafe. And there'd be like 30 kids, like, right? 5 carloads, 30 kids from Thousand Oaks. And they would go crazy from the first band to the last band.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, I'm going to book Strife again. Like, you know, so that really helped. You know, because I think originally, like, we weren't tapped in, and it was like OC hardcore was the dominant hardcore. We didn't know those kids. And I remember trying to get on like Instead's last show and calling, like, we'd call up Spanky's and we knew he's at. We're like, hey, we're trying to play. And, you know, they're like, oh, this band Black Spot's opening. We're like, Black Spot, who's that? Who are they? We don't know them, but they're like Orange County Sloth Crew dudes. So of course they're going to get on the Instead show and not us, right? Mm-hmm. So we're like, okay, well, you know, we're just going to book our own shows. Like, our first 2 shows we played, we booked ourselves. Like, our first show, We're Still Stand as One, we booked at Rick's Continuation High School. It was an anti-vivisection benefit for Last Chance for Animals. I think it was like $3 with a can of food, right?
Wow.
And it was Outspoken. Downcast was supposed to play, but they canceled. Stand as One, and Monster Club, Rick's previous band, played. And then our next show we booked, and it was in this little community center of a condo complex, like community center like around the pool that you would rent for like a party.
Awesome.
So we rented this. This was where Stage Eye Stacy lived. Peach Hill Country Club in the middle of a condo complex. We rented this room. We put the room on hold. We rented a stage and a PA, and it was Chain of Strength, Outspoken, this band called Solitude, which was on New Age. They became Drift Again, and it was Stand As One. And we booked this weird, crazy show in the suburbs. Like, I can't believe like Chain of Strength drove out, and trusted us to do a show like that. But it's awesome.
That's cool, man.
And then we met Mike from New Age Records, and we became friends, and just networking as kids. And I think
you had to do that too, man. There's no internet, none of that stuff.
And it was like, I remember, I was such a young kid. I think people thought it was cute or something. Like, cool. Like, look at this young little straight edge kid, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna help out his band. Like, I remember calling like Zach from Inside Out, like, hey, like we would talk on the phone and be like, oh, when's your show? We want to play. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I would talk to people like, the singer of this band on Conversion, Borderline. Like I don't know why these, they were older than me. Like, but they talked to this little kid, but I think they thought it was cool. Like,
wow.
We'd go to shows, we'd stage dive, we'd go crazy. And, I was a really little skinny kid. So, and definitely the youngest at every show.
Yeah.
So.
Did you have a following once before One Truth came out?
Yeah. So once we started playing, we definitely would get booked. Like we had our demo at Zed Records, right? Which was the cool West Coast record store, like legendary, and it did really well there. So people that worked there were super helpful. Like Igby booked us on a lot of shows. He works at Rev. Caton from Hyrax, he was in a band at the time, World Trust, and later House of Suffering. Super helpful for the band as well. He booked at this place, Toe Jam in Long Beach, that was very short-lived, but hosted some legendary shows. The last Inside Out shows were there, and he got us on some shows. So I think once promoters realized, like, oh, we're going to put this band on, they're going to bring 30 kids, like, cool. They're on the bill. And that was like based off our demo. And then, our first 7-inch came out on New Age. Our first tour, I guess was, I think with Lifetime and Up Front, like first time, Lifetime on the West Coast. And it was, I say a tour, but it was like 3 shows or whatever, like Toe Jam in Long Beach, playing a basement in San Diego, and then Spanky's in Riverside. We did some shows with Mouthpiece and Resurrection. So we're becoming friends with kids on the East Coast too, right? Mm-hmm. Through that New Age connection. And these were like our peers, but the cool bands from the East Coast at that time. So we played like a kind of, for us, legendary show, and our first like real show at a real venue, and that was at the Roxy. Nice. And it was Outspoken, Chorus of Disapproval, Mouthpiece, Resurrection, and Strife.
Sick. It's a great one.
And packed house, and it went crazy. A lot of the photos on the back cover of One Truth were actually taken at that show. And that was, I think it was New Year's Eve of 91. And so we did that. And that show was like the 30th, and New Year's Eve in 91, we played the Shea Cafe with almost the same lineup. Yeah. With Unbroken as well. And then, so after that first show, Resurrection was here, and I think one of the guys from Mouthpiece was playing bass for Resurrection, and it was his first time on tour, and he played the show at the Roxy, and they just boned out. Like, went to the airport, disappeared, and Resurrection was like, we don't have a bass player, what are we going to do? And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I knew their 7-inch. Yeah. And so they're like, okay, learn the 7-inch songs. And then there was like, maybe a song that was on a comp, and there's like, oh, there's 2 new songs. And they're like, just freestyle it. Just do whatever. I'm like, yeah. Freestyle. So there's like literally 2 songs that I just made it up.
Damn.
Yeah. And my first show was at the Shea Cafe with them. Then we went up to Gilman. That was my first time at Gilman. I was probably 15 years old. We'd go up to Gilman. Man. And it was crazy. So here's a crazy story. guys might get it. This might be an exclusive for you, actually.
I like it. Let's get
So
it.
this might be the exclusive.
You hit it
so
first.
we play the show at
Finally.
Gilmore. Yeah, I know, right?
Let's get it.
Sick of these tired stories.
No, I love this, man.
No, so we go up to Gilman. I'm like 15 years old, and it's Outspoken, Resurrection, and Mouthpiece. It's like a very sparse attendance, but it was a great show.
Yeah.
So we're in the parking lot. Gilman was sketchy then. It's not now. It's sketchy. They're loading up the van. I see this like kind of like punk looking dude on a bike, and he's like hanging out by the van.
I know exactly who this is going to be.
Okay, there you go. So he's hanging out by the van. I'm like, this guy, like, this might be a little sketchy. Like, I'm just gonna go over and say what's up. So, like, I don't know what this guy is. He eyeing the van? Is he gonna jack us? I don't know what's going on. So I'm like, hey, what's up, man? He's like, hey. He's on a little BMX bike. I'm like, he's like, cool show. I'm like, awesome. He's like, you got any records to sell? I was like, yeah, I think we got some 7-inches. And he's like, it was weird. He goes, oh, you're straight edge? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I am too. And I was like, oh, really? What's your name? He's like, I'm Lint. Tim Armstrong. Mm-hmm. So cool, he went to the show. He bought a record.
It's amazing.
I had loved Operation Ivy at the time, so I was like, oh shit, I know who you are, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I got a new band I'm doing. Like, what's your address? I'll send you a tape. It's called Rancid. So he sends me the first Rancid to my dad's house on tape.
Wow,
when,
dude.
It must have came out like right at that time. So he's like, oh, check this out. He sent me a tape.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, and it was cool. He was at the show, and it was crazy because I just played, not just because of the pandemic, but I played Gilman.
Oh, snap.
Dang.
You just sold the house.
It's work. It is.
It's
It's
all good.
work.
Go ahead.
I put him on hold. So I just played Gilman and with Youth of Today, and I play in a band called Berthold City, and a guy comes, and it's Tim's brother. He's working.
Yeah, he's been there for years.
He's volunteering.
Yeah.
And so we're hanging out with him, and he's super cool. So that was really cool to still see
full
like
circle.
Him involved still. And
Still their OG guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really cool.
That's amazing, man.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and since then, it's like Tim's always cool. Every time I see him, he's like, Andrew, what's up, man? Do you got any records? Like he's always wanting records, which is
he's got a
awesome.
crazy collection.
I'm
too,
sure.
man.
I'm sure. Like
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like fill up this whole house. Damn. So One Truth comes out, and you guys just start touring, and
so
is that a big record when it first comes out? Like a big response back then?
yeah, like leading up to it is huge. We do our first. So our first kind of East Coast tour is '93. I'm still in high school. What Remain just comes out on the Only the Strong comp, and Am I the Only One comes out on the It's for Life comp. So it's like it's bubbling right there.
Yeah.
Like both those songs are kind of changing direction for us and becoming our biggest songs. And so we hit the East Coast, and we're doing a little run with Mouthpiece, and we do Boston at the Cambridge Church, and it was a crazy lineup like Strife, Mouthpiece, I think Endpoint, Rorschach.
Dang.
And then we play this kind of legendary show at Middlesex Community College.
I believe, yeah.
And at that time, it's like every modern hardcore, straight edge hardcore band on the bill. It's Outspoken, Strife, Four Walls Falling, Mouthpiece,
Damn.
Resurrection, Endpoint, Ashes, I think Grip, Flagman. It's like literally
bill,
everyone on one bill. And it's like, that place was huge. And it was packed. It was like 800 kids.
Wow.
And it was crazy. So we do that, and, our buddy who we didn't know then, Scott Muscomi, he's going off during Am I the Only One? He gets knocked out in the middle of the song. and so we stop the set. Like, people are trying to revive him, and they drag him off the stage, and he's like, don't stop playing. Don't stop playing. So we start the end riff and finish the song. And he ends up being like one of our best friends. He's like one of my tight friends. And that was our like first introduction to him. Yeah. Which was
incredible.
cool. And then we played Syracuse. And so, that's really where we meet all our East Coast friends.
Yeah.
And we really see the band kind of bubbling into, it's not just a local Southern California band, right? One Truth comes out, and Sick of It All asked us to go on tour for Scratch the Surface.
Yep, and I was on that, and I was going to say, one of my first memories of really seeing you guys is, I'm not going to say you stole the show, but maybe I will.
Irving Plaza.
You're
not the only one.
I'm watching.
You're not the only one to say that.
I'm on the balcony watching these dudes, and they destroy it. It's the most insane show. In New York City, in Sick of It All's hometown.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps. It was like goosebumps. I was like, holy shit, bro.
Amazing show for us. Amazing show. And
no disrespect to Sick of It All,
no.
That could have been your headlining show in New York.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say.
And that was like,
keep it a buck. I'm gonna keep it 100.
Yeah, and that was like our first time in New York City.
Really?
Yeah.
Bro.
That was our first time in New York City.
I can't imagine when we went back there and headlined after
Yeah,
that.
it was crazy. And
it was insane, dude.
Do you remember who else played? Was Sub-Zero on the bill?
All I know about is you guys, bro.
Yeah, but you know,
that's all I remember is that show is your set.
But so
seriously,
a record comes out and maybe we got a fax. I don't know how we even heard about this Sick of It All tour, but somehow they find us.
Stormy faxed you.
Yeah, I think so.
You get a letter in the mail.
And so like we're doing a tour and we just can't believe it. Sick of It All is our favorite band.
Right.
Like what? A tour? Yes, we're going. Absolutely.
North America.
Yeah. And so we do that tour. Our record isn't even quite out yet, actually. Comes out on the tour, I believe.
And there's no really internet to leak it at that point.
No.
That's perfect.
Yeah. And
it's word of mouth, man.
Yeah. And it's incredible. And then we follow it up with our first time in Europe with Sick of It All.
Oh,
damn.
So they brought you with the nice.
That's awesome.
Sick of It All and Rikers Tribe.
Wow.
Castle Crew.
Yeah, Rikers, man. Shout out to Rikers.
Yeah.
That's like a dream for you guys, man. That's insane.
Insane. And you know, it's like you start a band and it's just like, oh, I want to play a show or I want to record a demo and I want to do a 7-inch. And you know, we did a 7-inch on New Age, which at that time was our favorite. It was the shit.
Yeah,
It's like,
totally.
I can't believe we're on New Age. Wait, we're doing a U.S. tour with our favorite band? Like, unbelievable. We're going to Europe. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I went to Europe and I was...
How was the response in Europe? Like,
insane.
You had no idea what to expect, right?
No idea what to expect.
Damn.
Yeah.
So
17 years old. We play our first show. It's crazy. I met this kid the other day. We did a little pop-up at the Revelation Records. They had this little Halloween market.
Yeah.
And he's from Hamburg. And he goes, I just want to tell you, I went to your show in Hamburg with Sick of It All tour, and it changed my life. You guys, sorry, Sick of It All. This German guy said we stole the show, and I apologize because
I would. Fault.
Yeah. But he's like that show
killed it.
Yeah, he's like that show changed my life, and so that show I remember for two reasons. One, it was this crazy venue. It was our first show in Europe. It's this crazy venue. It's 2 levels, and the balcony goes all the way around it. I don't remember the name of the club, but I'm sure you've played
Probably
there.
Been there, yeah.
But kids were just going crazy, and they're jumping off the balcony, and you know, end of the show, everyone wants your guitar pick. People don't.
Can I have a plectrum, please?
People don't want that.
People don't want that in the States.
Yeah.
And then autogram. And it's just like, what? Like you finish your set, you're trying to pack up your gear, and there's like a line of kids on stage, and we're like, what's going on here? Like, we weren't expecting this.
Man.
So strange. But it was our first time in Europe. We didn't know what to expect. I remember we landed in Europe, and none of us slept because why would you? It's like Christmas. You know, it's like, do you sleep before Christmas when you're a kid? No. So like nobody slept. Nobody slept on the plane. I remember arriving in Europe and being so tired. And
so exhausted.
Our van, I don't think was there yet, and we had to like get some blankets for us to sleep with and stuff. And we had this crazy camper, you know, those kind of like the camper where two people would sleep above the driver, and then there was like some bunks, kind of like a straight up like 90s camper.
Yeah.
So we had to get some blankets, and I'm like, we're walking around Hamburg, and I'm falling asleep, and I'm falling asleep at the mall when they're trying to get these blankets. We're just exhausted, and somebody friggin' cut one. Was it the dog?
Oh, it's probably
probably the dog. Yeah.
All right, she's sleeping. I'll let it pass.
I tell you, if it was me, I'd be proud.
Damn.
I would definitely.
Sorry, man.
Woo.
Damn.
Well, you feed this thing. Getting in those veggie
You know what's
burgers.
crazy? I can't even smell it. You can smell it?
Oh, it's bad. Yeah,
I can't even smell it, dude. That's fucked.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I know it's
I'm
the
sorry,
dog.
I'm
'cause
sorry.
Oh, it's all good. She's curled up.
Tell's a mascot, and she stinks out the
curled
place.
up next to me. So, yeah. So we play this show, and it's our first show in Europe. It's crazy. And then we're like, okay, our next show's in Berlin, and we get into our camper, and we can't find Rick, and we can't find Hartsfield. They somehow. We're like, oh, fuck your camper. We're going on the Sick of It All bus. And they're playing chess. And they're having this good old time. So it's me, Sid, and Todd. And we're going from Hamburg to Berlin overnight. Our driver falls asleep on the Autobahn.
Holy shit.
Flips. Full flips. I awake. Me and Sid are above the driver in that little enclosed thing.
That.
And it's like slow motion. I swear to God, we're looking at each other. And we're like, flipping slowly, and all I'm thinking is I'm gonna be stuck in a sardine tin. We're gonna be trapped in here, and we're slow motion rolling. The whole thing gets thrashed, right?
Yeah.
We land. We're on our side, and the first thing I think is this thing's gonna blow up. Yeah. Like you see the movies, you don't know
it's gonna blow.
Yeah, but you also have a propane tank too.
Oh,
so there's gas, there's propane, and any movie I see, the car flips. It explodes.
Totally.
It's not what's going to happen. So it was so cold. I was sleeping in all my clothes. I pop up. The side door's at the top. I pop up. I jump out. I'm in the middle of the Autobahn. It's pitch black, freezing snow outside. And I'm just standing there.
Holy
and I'm
shit.
like, where's everybody else?
Yeah.
Where's it? Nobody pops out of the thing. I'm like, what's going on?
Man.
Eventually I like climb back up. I look into the little hole. I'm like, what's going on, guys? Todd is like pinned underneath all this wreckage, right?
Yo.
Sid's out. Todd's pinned underneath this wreckage. I hop back in. The driver's fine. I want to say his name. I don't want to put anyone on blast.
He's
if it wasn't
high. He's
him.
just chilling.
I think his name was Corty. But if it wasn't you, Corty, I apologize.
Okay.
But if it was Corty, you need more sleep.
Wow.
You need more sleep. Don't fall asleep with a band on the Autobahn. So like. It's pretty.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy.
So he's pinned.
He's pinned by this wood, and so like we get him out, and it's insane because
is he hurt?
He hurt his pinky. I think a nail poked him.
Come on, bro.
So it's but Rick and Mike, who were in the other bunk, the whole shower, which was all glass, would have collapsed on them.
Yeah.
So we're like,
scary.
thank God those guys decided to get on that bus because they would have been sliced.
Man.
So we get out on the Autobahn. Cops finally come. Sid actually was born in Germany, so he speaks German, and he's like,
I forgot.
Yeah. He's from just outside of Essen, I believe, and so we're in the cop car. They're taking us, I guess, to Berlin, and the cops are talking shit about us, and he knows.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, these guys are drunk or whatever.
Right.
And Sid's like, oh, I know what they say. And so like Todd's pinky friggin' hurts. Sid can't move his neck. He's got like we call it tweak neck. And so like me and Todd are like on one side, and Sid's like another, but he can't look at us, and we're making him laugh, and we're all just like kind of busting up. The next morning, Mark is just furious.
Oh, Mark gave me the
and who if you don't know what Mark looks like, this is kind of part of it. It's not somebody you want mad at you.
Right.
No.
He's like Andre the Giant.
Bigger than you, Derek.
Yeah,
you know him. Derek knows him.
he's
for the listeners.
He's huge. He looks like
He's wide,
like a monster.
Yeah.
Like literally looks like an ogre.
He's the biggest vegan on the planet.
Yeah, smash you
beast.
with one hand.
Yeah.
Hulk smash.
He definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah. So he just super pissed at our driver. We go back and get our gear, and just the entire inside of the RV is thrashed. I have photos. It's just demolished. Totally demolished.
You're so lucky.
Yes.
So
super lucky.
Dude.
We go to Berlin, play a show. It's Sick of It All, Strife, and Madball. And that was our first time seeing Madball.
Wow.
Madball didn't tour like they do now. They never went to the West Coast.
No.
So we're seeing Madball. It's probably Matt Henderson still in the band,
Sick.
And
Great lineup, man.
we play this awesome show.
Where was it at?
I don't even know.
Okay.
Was SO36 back then or no?
Yes.
I think it
existed.
was, but
Okay, yeah.
I feel like it wasn't SO36.
Okay.
I feel like it was like kind of like this warehousey vibe.
Okay.
But it may have been, it may have been, but it like my memory of it isn't what I remember SO30.
Yeah, you have a good memory. I could already, yeah.
So like we do the show and it's awesome, and so it was a very crazy tour for us. And I don't even remember what we ended up touring in after that camper.
Yeah.
Camper flipped. Like I guess we had to get a new bus.
Wow,
or whatever,
man.
Not a bus, but a new like little. I think they had like those little mini buses. Then maybe we had,
I remember the mini buses.
Yeah,
beat the street back then.
Beat the street. I've got a good one that we'll get to if we have time. Beat the street could be a podcast exclusive too.
Okay.
It's
the same tour or no?
Different tour, touring with pre-Derek Sepultura. We did the Roots tour.
Oh wow, Bloody Roots! Wow,
the Roots tour and the last shows with Max and Igor together in the band. We played the last show.
Yeah, Igor was a big Strife fan.
So how did that come into existence? Like even getting on that tour.
Okay, well let's.
Because Igor's a fan. I know that for sure.
Yeah, but I'll get there because it's a cool story. But yeah, so we do this Sick of It All tour, and it's our first time in Europe, and it's crazy. Things are so much different now. It's like, okay, there's a euro, you can have the same money almost everywhere you go.
Right,
it's like every country you go, you're exchanging money, and you're playing
Deutschmarks.
Yeah, and you're playing these venues, and everybody's smoking inside.
Bro,
I swear,
brutal.
Like our third show, we play this venue, and it's just a cloud of smoke, and my skin is burning. Like that never happened.
Eyes are burning.
Yeah. It was crazy. And then it's like, oh, you want to, I remember we played some show up in Scandinavia, and there's like, Sick of It. I was like, oh, you could go use our hotel to shower. And I made a phone call. I had change. And I made this phone call that ended up, I don't know if it cost me $50 or something.
Yeah.
But I put change they had in the hotel. You could put change in the phone. But then like, I think they charge you after you need the change to activate. I don't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you owe me this money. I'm like, okay, I don't know. I put the money in. But if like you wanted to call home, you were spending some sort of crazy money. There's no internet, but it was awesome. And those Sick of It All guys were so cool to us as, these crazy little kids from the West Coast, and super helpful to our band and to our career. And, I definitely want to thank them because definitely wouldn't be the band we are without them taking a chance.
Yeah, so that record totally put you guys on the map, the One Truth one, for sure. And the video too, everything.
Yeah,
man.
we did the VHS. And I think what really separated us from the other bands on the West Coast is we just got in the van and toured. Like, our contemporaries from the West Coast weren't touring. Maybe they did one U.S. tour and some East Coast dates, but like we were heavily
grinding. Man.
Yeah, we were grinding.
And your sound too. Your sound had a very East Coast influence too. It was harder.
True.
It was harder.
And we were one of the few bands that really playing fast at that time. Mm-hmm. And Sid was a great drummer, and so we had a different vibe. And so back to the Sepultura thing. So we play this show in Phoenix, and so we drive to Phoenix. We play this show, and it's kind of crazy. It's us and our friend's band Eyelid, and I remember
you're headlining.
We're headlining, and it's a cool show. It's like a normal, maybe 200 kids. And I remember our roadie came out at the end, and he let off a fire extinguisher or whatever, some random thing.
Some tour shit.
Yeah, and so we're packing up, and our merch guy goes, "Hey, Andrew, someone's at the merch from Sepultura. He wants to talk to you." I'm like, "Someone from Sepultura?" And it's Igor.
Were you a fan of Sepultura?
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. We all loved Sepultura. And so I was like, what? And it's Igor. Igor was, I guess at the time, he might not have even lived in Phoenix. I think Max lived in Phoenix.
Yeah.
But they were rehearsing for Roots.
Right.
So Igor came to the show, and he's like, dude, my drum tech, Kishi, he told me I had to come here.
Rest in peace,
Kishi. Yes. Yeah. He told me I had to buy him a T-shirt. And I was like, dude, you're not buying shit. Take whatever you want, right? So, Kishi was a drum tech at the time. awesome dude who just passed away in the last year.
Damn.
And super sad because he was
super sad.
Somebody tell me about that. Yeah,
He's the man.
amazing guy. But he basically told Igor, like, they're playing in Phoenix.
Right.
You got to go and get me a T-shirt. And Igor was into hardcore, so it wasn't like he made him. But like Kishi wanted the shirt.
He was there solo.
I think he did.
Probably was.
Yeah.
Sick.
I don't remember him being with anybody.
Right.
And then, he's
cool.
like, I'm living in San Diego. Let's hang out. We're like, yeah, let's go. And so like we became friends on that day. And then literally it was like, I feel like it was like weeks later, they're like, we're going to Europe. We want you to come. And we're like, okay. And it was like the tour was announced even before we were added on it. And we had to like figure it out with our label, like how we were going to pay to get there and travel.
What year was that?
That was like 96.
Oh,
yeah.
so okay.
Yeah. It was fall of 96. It was the Roots tour.
Damn.
And it was insane. We were playing like indoor soccer arenas.
Wow, man.
That was like really the peak of Sepultura at that time. And so like we would play shows and then we'd load out and we'd see like new buses coming in. We're like, oh, who's that? And it's like, oh, it's Kiss. Kiss is playing here tomorrow. Kiss played like 3 or 4 of the same venues after us.
Wow. The crowds are great for you guys.
Oh, it was insane. So we played Czech Republic, and that day we went to a press conference. Sepultura got a gold record.
Yeah.
For Roots, and then we played this indoor soccer stadium for 15,000 people.
Wow.
And it was just like, you guys have all played to people like that, but it's just like you could see the first row of people, and then it's just bodies, and it was just like, we always loved that challenge, because there would be Strife fans,
Of course.
but like in the big picture, no. Like, you had your Strife fans up front sing along, but it's like, if we can get these kids that never heard of us to move, like, so we would just go as hard as we could and really give everything we could to win these kids over. And to this day, I meet hardcore kids in Europe. They're like, my first hardcore show was seeing you open for Sepultura in Wales or Prague or wherever, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so we played like, I remember a show on that tour, the Zenith in Paris.
Yes, I know. Place.
Crazy.
Big place.
Huge. Huge.
It's massive.
Yeah. So we played that. And we would load in. Sepultura's crew would be loading in the lights and the stage and the props.
Was Sylvia with him then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sylvia is the best.
Yeah. And Tony and so we would be playing soccer, the Americans against the Brazilians. Not a fair fight. Not a fair fight. We play soccer with them every day. And then I remember at that show for some reason, Rob Trujillo from now Metallica.
Back then, Infectious Grooves. And
Suicidal. Yeah. He was there hanging out. So like
his girl is.
Yes.
So,
of course, being the little shits that we are, we had to harass him with a skit off of Infectious Groove. So he'd walk by and we'd like, whipped cream, like just like being little kids, entertaining ourselves. But it was incredible. And then, Sepultura was traveling with catering, full like top of the line. So you get like this amazing breakfast. And, like in Paris, there was like shrimp 5 ways, like just like insane, like 5-star dining, I swear.
Right.
Wow.
And for us, we're like, we're used to the bread and meat plate with
Tartex.
and some chocolate bars and some Chocomel, right? So like this was next level, and it was just like, okay, like figuring out the right way to do this. Like you'd wake up starving, but like it's not right to eat before the band, so we're like, hurry up and wake up, Paulo, and eat your food so
you can eat.
So we can eat, because we don't want to be disrespectful.
Totally.
But we had this terrible beat the street driver, which we'll get into to the story. We called him Robbie Boy. I guess his name was Robbie, a.k.a. Shit Boy, a.k.a. Mushy Stinkin'. He smelled. He didn't
shower.
No, he didn't shower. He picked us up from the airport in the middle of winter with a broken window, freezing cold.
Bro.
We had this beat the street bus that leaked exhaust. We thought we would die. Like every night you'd go to sleep, you think you'd die. Robbie Boy wouldn't shower. He would wake up and eat before Sepultura every day. It's our stinky bus driver, and wouldn't listen to us. And then he would sleep in Todd's bunk. So like Todd had to deal with this stinky, I think it was Austrian bus driver, sleeping in his bunk every day. And it was a nightmare. So
that's brutal.
Not even halfway, first 3 days of the tour, he doesn't close the trailer. He loses my guitar, which was like this legendary, for me, Les Paul. I got from Mike from Outspoken. It played on the Against the Wall record and the Outspoken records and a bunch of photos. Loses it like driving through some German village.
How do you restrain yourself from not strangling this dude? You must.
We wanted to kill him. And so we're like, we gotta get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be nice.
Right.
Like, we got to get rid of him, but also he's got to pay the price.
Yeah.
And he's got to pay the price from 17, 18, 19-year-old jerks who like to punish people. Ooh. So it was bad. So we talked to Victory, and we're like, hey, this isn't going to work. First of all, it's embarrassing. We have this crappy thing.
Right.
Second of all, we're going to die from the exhaust fumes. Third of all, it's freezing cold, and we're sleeping in all our cold. And we can't if he turns on the heat, then we start choking.
Yeah.
So he can't turn the heat on. He lost our guitar. You got to get rid of him, or we're gonna probably kill him. So they fire him. We have a new bus driver coming from England with like our first time on a real bus, and we're like, ooh, we can't believe this. This is the life. And we're like, how are we gonna get even with Robbie Boy? So One Life, One Chance. Exclusive.
Exclusive.
So I may leave some details out just to protect the innocent.
Yeah.
Yes.
But basically, we're like, we're going to make, I don't remember where we were, but he was probably a 2-day drive from wherever he had to go. And we're like, we're going to make this motherfucker pay. That guitar was one of a kind, can't be replaced. He put our lives at risk. This guy's got to pay. So we grab a giant trash bag and we go, anyone using the bathroom, don't go in the toilet. Please go in this bag. We collect a trash bag full of poop.
This sounds like my style.
Yeah. we collect this trash bag full of poop from everyone in the band, roadies, like whoever. And
in one day?
One day.
Okay.
And so we go and we take the bag and we find the most hidden corner under a table and just dump this bag out.
Oh my god!
And so there's just a bag full of like human shit. Not even a bag. It's just loose human shit in this stinky bus. And
I'm already gagging.
Yes, and he's got to drive 2 days back to Austria to return the van. So he might have even been asleep in the bus at the time. I don't even know. But I remember he's getting ready to leave, and he comes out, and he's like, who is shit boy? Who is shit boy? As if it's one person, he could smell it. Who is shit boy? And we're like mad and we're throwing like Cokes at it. And we're like, get out of here, Robbie boy.
Oh my God.
He leaves.
Wow.
He gets into the bus. He maybe drives 8 hours overnight. The bus breaks down. So he's like stuck
with shit
in this van. And we're like, karma is a motherfucker.
Wow. Holy shit.
And there was rumors that, you know, people from Beat the Street were going to show up in Germany or wherever. They're going to get you.
Yeah, what are they going to do?
It didn't happen. They're huge. They're huge now. They're
Beat
huge.
the Street is so
Beat the
massive
Street
now.
is huge.
But back then it was kind of...
Back then, they were janky.
So it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
They were janky
correct.
for sure.
So we got this awesome... a bus shows up. It's a real bus. Our first time on a bus, we got this awesome British dude named Steve that owns the company driving us. He's like this hilarious, like, comedian dude. Awesome. And from there on, we're like, oh, yes, this is the best. So we couldn't believe it.
G.G. Allen would be proud of that.
We're still paying for that bus to this day.
What?
I swear to God. I mean, okay, Victory had some very tricky accounting, but we've never seen a royalty check from Victory to this day, partially because of that bus on the Sepultura tour, but wouldn't change a thing.
The cleaning fees.
No, not because of the Beat the Street.
Okay.
Because of the fancy bus that we got from England, like the real
most expensive bus in the world, I guess.
I guess it's plated in gold. Plated in gold. We had our own 5-star caterer, so we can compete with Sepultura. No, I don't know. It's just, you know.
Fuck, man.
Victory is known for their accounting, and I guess they use that as a way to not pay us.
Yeah. So in this Defiance, was that a Victory?
That came out on Victory. So that comes out. We finished. We do the Sepultura show. It's incredible. You know, we play in front of thousands and thousands of people every night. Igor comes out and plays What Will Remain with us.
Damn.
Every single night. Rick and I go on stage with Sepultura and play We Gotta Know with them every single night.
Wow, that's hard.
It's insane, right? And lifelong friendship with, Igor's still one of my best friends.
So cool.
I travel, not anymore, but I was teching for Igor.
Conspiracy
with Conspiracy for a number of years, and I see Andreas and Paula when they're here when I can, but just like a really great friendship that was formed, and I'll still see Andreas to this day. He's got his classic guitar with a Strife sticker.
Sick.
People tag us on Instagram when they see him playing.
I just met his son too. He's incredibly talented.
I saw somebody posted something
with him.
about it.
Yeah, it looks just like him. It's crazy.
Yeah. So that's really cool.
Johan.
And eventually we'll get to the part where we become friends with Derek because we're getting close.
Yeah.
So we play. This is insane. So Sepultura's last show. It's the end of December. Brixton Academy, sold out show. It's insane. Nobody knows what's going down. We have no idea. So we do this incredible tour. Sepultura plays this sold out show, and we come out. During one of the songs, like we'd always come out and do the drums on Rada Mahata, right? And we came out, and we had our face painted like the natives on the Roots thing, and we came out, I think, with like socks on our dicks, like to fuck with them on that day, like Red Hot Chili Pepper style. We're like, we're gonna fuck with them as the last tour, So everyone came out.
With touring, that was a big thing.
Last year we do something crazy.
Yeah,
so you always come out and try to screw with
sick
the
of
other
it all.
band.
We silly,
Everybody does.
We
this.
silly stringed them.
Yeah.
Which photos of Armand, I think, on the B-side label of Built to Last on the vinyl.
Okay.
So we do silly things. So we do that. We go out, and then all of a sudden it's like we're ready to go to the airport, and we can't find anyone. We're like, we got to say bye to these guys. Is somebody mad at us? Like, did we piss somebody off? Like. We finished this 30-day tour and didn't say bye to Igor, Max, Paolo, Gloria. Thank you. We didn't get to say anything. Come to find out later, they were in this heated contract. Their contract with their manager, which was Max's wife, expired that night.
Gloria, yeah.
And I guess they had to renegotiate, and
it didn't go so well.
It didn't go so well, and that
man.
is that was the last show.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
So you guys played that.
We played that. And had no idea. And so tour's over. Igor comes back. He's in San Diego. We're hanging all the time. And then it's just like, oh, the band, Max is out. Yeah. We're looking for singers. So like, I know they auditioned a few people.
And people we know too. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if we talk about it or not.
Did we ever talk about it before?
Have you talked about it?
I can't remember when I was on before. I'm sure we did because I had a connection with hardcore.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I heard one of the top prospects was Jorge from Marauder.
Yes.
Which would have been cool. Loose cannon, obviously.
He went to Brazil.
Yeah, he went to Brazil to
do the
so
audition.
did you. And so did
he
you.
went
right?
before I did.
Okay.
Yeah. And great voice. Marauder's great. But loose cannon. So
he kept speaking Spanish to them. They're like,
yeah.
Stop speaking
Wow.
Spanish. They're like, we don't speak Spanish here.
But
it's interesting. Yeah.
Derek, we hear Derek gets a cut, and I was like, oh, we know Derek.
Outface.
Alpha Jerk. I had the Alpha Jerk cassette because my
Alpha
buddy
Jerk.
Sean from Toy Box put that out.
Sean
so I still have that at home.
Nice.
Alpha Jerk, and then I guess do you go to Brazil and start recording? Did you record in Brazil or you recorded in LA?
I went to Brazil to do the audition, and then once I got back in, like once I was like, okay, he's in the band, we recorded some in Brazil, and then we started recording in LA as well.
Yeah, so we knew you were in the band. You guys come back out, and you start staying at the Oakwoods. Oakwoods is basically the border between Burbank and Hollywood.
Yeah.
And 15-minute, I guess where I live now, which I probably lived then, it was like a 10-minute drive from me.
Yeah,
so
Oakwood, notorious Oakwoods, where everybody's staying in L.A. who was like coming up star, actor,
like a short-term actor. You're here on a pilot.
Stay at these condos that they rent.
Exactly. So we start hanging out all the time.
Yeah.
Do you guys record at Sound City?
Yeah, we did.
Because I remember rehearsals at the Sound City complex, and I feel like I must have been to the recording, but
definitely.
I know we were at the rehearsals all the time, which was
Right.
across the street. You had like the stage built out in there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Totally.
And then you guys record there, and we're recording In This Defiance. We recorded In This Defiance at Sound City too, and I think Igor produces Toy Box at the time. Toy
Shop.
Toy Shop.
Yeah.
Sorry. My apologies to my
Toy
good friends in
Shoppy.
Toy Shop. But they recorded at Sound City too. They were on. They had a
right.
Roadrunner deal. So everything's kind of based around us hanging out at Sound City. And I remember that's how Igor, he played drums on a track called Overthrow on In This Defiance. I think he walked over from across the street at Sepultura rehearsal.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it."
So we're hanging out, super tight. I have this story, and maybe you remember or not, but we went to Magic Mountain one day.
Yes.
And it's Igor and maybe you guys and so Sid and Igor, they get some churros.
Yeah.
And Igor gets food poisoning.
Oh shit.
I was like,
He gets super sick. Did he go to the hospital? I think he had to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And so he goes to the hospital, but it happens to be the weekend that Jason Newsted flew out to rehearse for your first show in Brazil.
Wow.
So like Jason Newsted's coming to town and he's supposed to learn a couple songs to play, and Igor's in the hospital. And I guess Sid has to step up and jam with Sepultura and Jason Newsted.
Holy shit.
right.
Which is
That's so nerve-wracking. Yeah.
incredible now.
amazing,
That
though.
opportunity to be like, I don't know if you guys like played Roots and a few other songs. I don't really remember.
Pretty sure it was like Refuse, Resist. And the thing is, like, Jason kept saying, like to Igor all the time, like when the songs were playing, he's like, "Yo, slow it down, man. Slow it down." And he's like, he's like, "I can't help it." He's just like, it's just the way that I play and the anxiety. Like
Igor is a human metronome in that he'll play every song 20 BPMs faster than it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah.
But yes. And so Sid had to step up, and Sid didn't play double bass, but he had to step up and have this jam session with Sepultura.
Wow.
And Jason Newsted, which is, for a drummer, that's pretty
Fucking legendary.
Yeah, pretty legendary and really cool. I think that's a pretty cool story. And One Life, One Choice, One Chance, exclusive. Yeah. So, no, I think that's a really, really cool story.
Hell yeah.
And so,
You guys.
so they're getting ready. Did you do like the shows under the other name before you did the Brazil show?
Troops of Doom.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they do these secret Sepultura shows.
Yeah.
And it's your first show.
Yeah, my
and
first
it's
show.
called Troops of Doom. They played House of Blues in L.A.
Damn.
Yeah.
And
when
some
it was on
venue in
Sunset.
San Diego.
We played brick by brick.
Brick by brick. And of course we go to those shows and, awesome. And then they're like, dude, we're doing was it a free show in Brazil?
Yes.
So we're doing
That's
the first show with Derek in Brazil. It's going to be free. And we're like, oh, we're going.
That's gonna be sick.
So like 4 of us.
It's like 20,000 people.
To 20,000 people. I mean, must have been nerve-wracking.
Totally.
To
That was
Derek
your first show?
Mackie was there.
in Brazil. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mackie
What
was there.
Mackie doing there?
He was playing with Supla, this guy
Oh, yeah,
that
I know-
used to hang out
I
at
know
shows
Supla
in
from
New
New York.
York.
I know the bleach there.
Yeah.
But like kind of everyone with Jason Newsted was there. Mike Patton
Patton.
was there.
Wow.
Right.
The Javantes tribe was there.
The
Like
entire Indian tribe.
yeah,
was
so it was insane. But
This
so
your first show?
first show in Brazil.
Bro.
So okay, so listen to this. So Strife had these shows in Hawaii, and we were on the airplane to go to Hawaii, and they're like, okay, whoever gives up their ticket can get a free round trip ticket to anywhere United flies. And we're like, what? We'll take that. So we don't go to Hawaii the first day. We get on flights the next day. We have these ticket vouchers that's how I got to Brazil to see Sepultura for free.
Are you
Yes.
kidding me? That's insane.
Yeah, so we had these free tickets. We had a layover in New York. It was me, it was my friend Jesse Politao. It was our old roadie. Todd flew out there with his buddy. My good friend Carlos came with me. So we get and I think everyone gets there on these free ticket vouchers from our canceled Hawaii flight. So, because I couldn't afford a flight to Brazil at that time. So we fly to New York. I remember we meet, do you remember Richard Bay, the Richard Bay show?
Yeah.
We met Richard Bay on the airplane. We have photos with Richard Bay. We're in some music video at
Here's like the half version of Jerry
Springer.
Yeah.
Bootleg version.
Bootleg, yeah.
We're in some music video at one of the big parks there, and then we go to Brazil. We fly to Brazil, and this is crazy. Nobody has cell phones.
No.
And we're taking this weird chance. We're flying to Brazil. We don't know where the fuck we're going.
Damn.
I have no idea.
No MapQuest.
Nothing. Supposedly, I had a phone number for Igor's hotel.
Wow.
And so we get on this flight.